So if you think you know how, like, traditional coming-of-age stories go, you're about to have your expectations completely rewritten.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at this truly unprecedented narrative that challenges, well, absolutely everything we might assume about biology, societal norms, and, the absolute limits of friendship.
Yeah, it really is a remarkable piece of media. We're analyzing a stack of incredibly detailed narrative sources today.
Right, lots of material to get through.
Exactly. And it encompasses both vivid textual descriptions and these really striking visual images. And it's all centered on characters that belong to the universe of the 1997 animated series, Franklin.
Franklin the Turtle.
Yes, specifically Franklin the Turtle and his childhood best friend, Bear.
But, I want to be incredibly clear with you right out of the gate here.
Yeah.
The mission today is not just to recap some bizarre storyline. We aren't here for shock value.
No, absolutely not. The events depicted in these sources, they require serious analytical rigor.
They really do.
We have to look past that initial, staggering premise
Yeah.
to understand what is actually happening to these individuals.
Exactly. Our goal is to deeply analyze the emotional, the societal, and the physical hurdles these characters face. Because they are navigating a groundbreaking, medically astonishing, youthful pregnancy.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So, okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the inciting incident because, honestly, this narrative does not give you time to warm up.
No, it drops you right in.
It drops you immediately into a completely reshaped reality.
It demands an immediate suspension of disbelief from the audience.
Yeah.
Because the core revelation of the text is that Franklin and his best friend Bear have evolved.
Right, from childhood companions.
Exactly, from childhood companions into a romantic couple. And the biological paradigm shift here is just absolute.
It's total.
Bear, a male bear, becomes pregnant with their child.
And the sources provide incredibly vivid evidence of this, too. We see Bear exhibiting a highly significant pregnancy belly.
Very prominent.
Yeah, and he is going through intense hormonal shifts. Plus, he's dealing with very specific pregnancy cravings. And the one that really stands out is chocolate ice cream.
Let's pause on that detail for a second, actually, because the chocolate ice cream is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting in this narrative.
Wait, how so?
Well, think about the mechanics of storytelling here. You have a staggering biological impossibility, right?
A male bear impregnated by a male turtle.
Yeah, right. If the narrative focused on the mechanics of that, it would become like a hard science fiction medical thriller.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see what you mean.
But it doesn't do that. It anchors this impossible anomaly in deeply relatable, mundane pregnancy
Oh,
tropes.
so it bypasses the shock of the anomaly itself. The story doesn't spend a single second asking, how did this happen?
Precisely. Cravings for chocolate ice cream, hormonal mood swings, these are universal signifiers of pregnancy in our cultural lexicon.
Everybody knows what those mean.
Right. By utilizing those familiar tropes, the narrative essentially forces you to focus on the reality of the character's lived experience rather than, interrogating the biology.
It normalizes the medically impossible by cloaking it in the incredibly mundane.
That's exactly it.
It's brilliant, honestly. And right alongside that normalization, the text explicitly defines Franklin's role.
Yeah.
He isn't panicking.
He's incredibly calm.
Yeah, he isn't calling a team of geneticists or anything. The narrative presents him as, quote, being the best boyfriend in the relationship supporting his pregnant babe.
The phrasing is very intentional there.
And there is this striking visual of Franklin, too. This young turtle in his signature red baseball cap and his little neckerchief, calmly presenting Bear with a little box containing pink and blue mints. It's entirely attentive.
The pink and blue mints are a fascinating touch, actually.
Why do you say that?
Because even in a scenario that completely obliterates traditional biological and gender paradigms, they're still holding on to these foundational cultural rituals of pregnancy.
Oh, like the pink and blue color binary for babies.
Exactly. It shows a deep psychological need for structure when the rules of nature have basically vanished.
I love that. It's like discovering gravity just reversed,
Yeah.
right? But instead of panicking, you just calmly start nailing your furniture to the ceiling.
That is a perfect analogy.
They just accept the new reality.
Yeah, nailing the furniture to the ceiling is an act of extreme adaptation. The narrative normalizes the biological anomaly instantly to center the interpersonal dynamic.
The focus shifts entirely.
Right. The true focus isn't on a medical miracle. It is on Franklin's unwavering dedication to his partner. It establishes this baseline of unconditional support before the external world can intervene.
But, nailing your furniture to the ceiling only works inside your own house.
True.
Eventually, someone is going to look through the window. You can't just stay in that bubble of total acceptance forever.
Especially not with a youthful pregnancy.
Exactly. The internal reality of the couple inevitably has to collide with the external reality of their foundational community, which forces us to look at the generation above them.
Ah, the announcement phase. This is arguably the most vulnerable moment for any young couple experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, anomalous or otherwise.
For sure. They have to seek validation from their primary caregivers.
Right.
So Franklin acts incredibly responsibly here. He runs home to tell his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Turtle, the news.
And the visual context here is important.
Yeah, the source material paints this picture of Franklin running excitedly up the dirt path to his parents' idyllic little cottage. He looks happy.
He does.
He looks ready to share this massive life update, that he is becoming a father. He expects his foundational support system to catch him.
And instead, they let him hit the ground.
Hard. The rejection is swift, and it is absolute.
But we have to look very closely at the nature of that rejection, because it isn't what you might expect given the circumstances.
Yeah, it really isn't. Because the text tells us exactly why they react the way they do. Mr. and Mrs. Turtle are shocked, and they send Franklin to his room.
A very standard parental punishment.
Right. But the specific reason given in the narrative is that they, quote, don't support young pregnancy.
This raises an incredibly important question about the sociology of this woodland community.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the layers of what is happening in this interaction.
It's wild.
Mr. and Mrs. Turtle are confronted with the news that their son, a male turtle, has impregnated his friend, a male bear. The biological implications alone should theoretically break their understanding of the natural world.
Right. But they completely bypass it.
Entirely.
They bypass the biological impossibility of a cross-species, same-sex male pregnancy, and instead they focus entirely and exclusively on the age of the parents.
It is a stunning display of selective outrage. It suggests that in their societal structure, biological essentialism might not actually be the primary moral metric.
What is then?
Well, it seems socioeconomic readiness and adherence to a prescribed chronological life path are the ultimate arbiters of morality.
Wait, hold on. I have to stop you there. Are you suggesting we are supposed to read Mr. and Mrs. Turtle as incredibly progressive about the biology of gender and species, but just deeply, fundamentally conservative about the timeline of life milestones?
That's what the text implies.
Like cross-species male pregnancy. Fine, we love that journey for you. But before you finish school, unacceptable. It feels almost comical in its dissonance.
It does seem a bit absurd when you frame it like that.
I mean, I'm not entirely buying that read. Isn't it possible that the parents are just using age as a convenient, socially acceptable excuse because the biology is too terrifying for them to actually confront?
You know, that is a very compelling counterargument. Displacement of anxiety is a very real psychological defense mechanism.
Exactly. Like they can't process the real issue.
Right. If you are faced with the reality that shatters your fundamental understanding of the universe like male bear pregnancy, your brain might latch onto a familiar, manageable problem to process the shock.
Because they know how to be mad about that.
Precisely. Complaining that they are too young is a known script. Mr. and Mrs. Turtle know how to be angry about a teen pregnancy. They do not have a script for how to be angry about a biological miracle.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
They're retreating to the familiar rules because the new rules don't exist yet.
Exactly.
But, regardless of whether it's genuine chronological gatekeeping or displaced biological panic, the impact on Franklin is absolutely devastating.
The visual evidence we have for this is just gut-wrenching.
It really is. We see Franklin sitting entirely alone, huddled in the dark, under a table, clutching a piece of purple fabric, just crying.
It's a stark contrast to the bright, sunny path he was running up just moments before.
A total 180.
He has been fundamentally exiled. This represents the ultimate isolation from his foundational support system. The very people who are supposed to guide you through a terrifying life change have completely shut the door on him.
And think about the physical positioning, too. Crying under a table. That's highly symbolic, isn't it?
It is an instinctive regression. When children or young adults feel fundamentally unsafe in the macro environment of their home, they create microenvironments.
Oh, like hiding.
Right. A space under a table provides physical boundaries. It offers a tangible sense of containment when the emotional world has suddenly lost all its borders. He is actively mourning the loss of his childhood safety net.
Wow. But the narrative doesn't leave him under the table, thankfully. And this is where the resilience of his partnership with Bear really starts to shine.
It's a turning point.
Because a microenvironment born of despair under a table eventually evolves into a microenvironment built for survival. They retreat to a literal tent indoors.
Yes, the creation of Camp Franklin.
Exactly. The text notes, they have a sleepover in this tent with a little sign, and they tell pregnancy scare stories in the dark with a flashlight.
The architectural shift from the house to the tent is a critical mechanism for their psychological survival.
How so?
While exiled from the adult world, they cannot comfortably exist in the open spaces of the home that is governed by Mr. and Mrs. Turtle's rules.
Because that space rejected them.
Right. The tent is a physical manifestation of their newly formed, isolated family unit. It is a boundary they can control.
It's so true. Think about the mechanics of being in a tent. The fabric is incredibly thin. It doesn't actually protect you from anything physical.
Not at all.
But psychologically, it's an impenetrable fortress. When you zip that flap shut, you are definitively defining who is inside your family and who is outside.
Exactly.
By retreating to Camp Franklin, they are actively building their own isolated, safe environment away from judgmental adults.
And we shouldn't overlook the detail about telling pregnancy scare stories with a flashlight either.
Oh, right. Why is that so important?
This is how young minds process trauma. They are taking this terrifying, deeply adult reality, an anomalous, unsupported pregnancy, and they are filtering it through the only lens they have access to.
Which is play.
Yes, the rituals of childhood play. It's like kids telling ghost stories to manage their fear of the dark. They are using the mechanics of childhood to survive the abrupt onset of adulthood.
That is heartbreaking. But you know, a fortress made of blankets and tent fabric is temporary. It's a coping mechanism, not a sustainable ecosystem.
Eventually, you have to unzip the flap.
Exactly. You have to emerge to gather social supplies.
Yeah.
Exiled from the adult authorities, Franklin and Bear are forced to look outward, to rely on their peers for validation.
Which is a huge risk.
You'd hope that their friends would rally around them, given the parental rejection.
But the peer ecosystem is often far more ruthless than the parental one.
Really? Why do you say that?
Parents might reject you based on developmental timelines, like we saw, but peers enforce the perceived rules of the collective with brutal efficiency.
Oh, man. Which brings us to a pivotal and frankly shocking confrontation with Beaver.
This is a massive moment.
Franklin decides he needs to share the news with his broader social circle. And Beaver's reaction is the exact opposite of Mr. and Mrs. Turtle's displaced anxiety.
She doesn't care about their age at all.
No. Beaver immediately acts as the voice of traditional biological reality. She looks right at them and says, quote, "Everyone knows males can't get pregnant. Everybody knows that."
This is a crucial injection of objective realism into the narrative.
It's like hitting a brick wall.
Exactly. Because until this exact moment, the story has operated on a sort of magical realism. Male pregnancy has been accepted as a physical fact by the characters, even if the timing was criticized by the parents.
So Beaver changes the rules.
Beaver represents the introduction of objective, earthly, biological laws into the text. She's the anchor to our reality, actively challenging the established fiction of their woodland existence.
And she weaponizes that reality, too. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dismissive, it's absolute, and it is entirely designed to invalidate their existence.
It's a direct attack.
She is telling them that their family isn't just socially inappropriate, it is physically impossible. And Franklin's reaction to this, here's where it gets really interesting.
The tonal shift is severe here.
It is explosive.
Yeah.
The text says Franklin is, quote, pissed, and he yells, "Shut the fuck up,"
Yeah.
at Beaver.
We have to analyze the linguistic weight of that profanity within the context of this specific universe.
Because it's totally jarring.
It is. This is Franklin the Turtle. This is a character whose previous narrative conflicts usually involve, learning to share toys or being afraid of small, dark spaces.
Right.
To have him drop an explosive, aggressive command at his peer, it is a complete shattering of the established social contract of their world.
It feels completely out of character for the universe, for sure. But I would argue it is entirely in character for the trauma he's experiencing in that exact moment.
How so?
Well, I completely agree about the social contract breaking. But to me, this is the absolute boiling over of the trauma from his parents' rejection the night before.
Oh, I see. Yes, that is the exact psychological mechanism at play. Franklin is operating in pure survival mode.
Exactly.
The night before, his foundational authorities invalidated his future. Today, his peer is trying to invalidate his present reality. When you strip a person of all their external support systems, you force them into a cornered animal response.
You threaten my family, I will tear you down.
Precisely. That profanity is not just a curse word, it is a verbal weapon.
A shield, almost.
Yes. He is fiercely protecting his new family unit Bear and the unborn child from a society that is actively trying to dismantle it. He cannot afford to engage in a philosophical or biological debate with Beaver.
He doesn't have the time for that.
Or the emotional bandwidth. He has to shut the threat down immediately, forcefully, and overwhelmingly.
It's a patriarch fiercely defending the borders of his new, vulnerable family. But thankfully, the peer review isn't entirely hostile. Because if it were, the isolation might have broken them completely. But the sources show a stark contrast immediately following this explosion. We see interactions with Rabbit and Goose.
A much different vibe.
Totally. And Rabbit, instead of questioning the biology like Beaver or the age like the turtles, just pivots directly to practicalities. Rabbit simply asks what they are going to name the baby.
The psychology of that pivot is profound.
It's so simple but so effective.
It acts as an absolute lifeline for Franklin and Bear. Because by asking for the name, Rabbit is implicitly granting the unborn child personhood.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of it like that.
And by granting the child personhood, Rabbit is definitively validating the pregnancy and the relationship. It is the ultimate form of social acceptance.
Yes. It cuts through all the debate and just accepts the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
And Bear suggests the names Barry or Bear Clinton.
Very specific choices.
And Goose chimes in to compliment the name. We have this vivid visual of Bear, heavily pregnant, standing next to this tall goose, and Franklin looking up at them. It's a glimmer of genuine hope.
It is.
They found a small pocket of social acceptance. They aren't totally alone in the woods.
It demonstrates the fractured nature of their society, really. They learn very quickly that they will not find universal acceptance.
Right.
But they can curate a chosen family from the fragments of their peer group who are willing to embrace the new paradigm. They are building a micro-community.
But just as they secure this tiny, fragile social foothold, the narrative refuses to let them rest.
Of course not.
Biological and social imperatives are pushed aside by an immediate, terrifying reality. The emotional whiplash in this story is relentless. We move from a crisis of social validation directly into a crucible of medical peril.
Because biology, even anomalous magical biology, is entirely unforgiving.
It really is.
The narrative doesn't let them just enjoy their hard-won social victory. It forces them to confront the severe physical toll of this impossible pregnancy.
The source material outlines that as the pregnancy progresses, Bear's hormones significantly worsen. It is taking a massive physical toll on his body.
And the visuals reflect this shift.
Yes. We see an image of them visiting Dr. Bear for a checkup. And the visual context here is vital because the environment mirrors the internal stakes. They are clad in heavy winter gear.
Very bundled up.
Yeah. Franklin has a thick scarf and a winter hat with ear flaps. Bear is in a heavy vest and a toque.
The seasonal shift to winter is a deeply entrenched literary and psychological device here.
How so?
Winter represents barrenness, hardship, the cessation of growth, and, frankly, the looming threat of death.
Oh, that's dark.
It is. It physically isolates the characters. The cold forces everyone indoors, further shrinking their available world. It sets a grim, visually sterile stage for the news they are about to receive from the medical establishment.
And the news is as cold as the weather outside. Dr. Bear, who you would assume would be a figure of comfort and scientific problem-solving, delivers a devastating verdict.
Absolutely devastating.
The text states bluntly that Dr. Bear says the, quote, baby wouldn't make it.
Let's truly examine the ethical and emotional weight of that prognosis. Consider the language used in the source.
It's so final.
There is no caveat mentioned. There is no, we'll do our best, or this is a high-risk situation we need to monitor. It is delivered as an absolute certainty of failure. The baby wouldn't make it.
For expectant parents, especially young ones, who have already sacrificed their familial support and fought their peers for this child, this is the ultimate psychological blow.
Unimaginable grief.
The text explicitly said this gives Bear intense anxiety, and how could it not? The narrative is forcing you, as the listener, to grapple with the absolute fragility of life.
It strips away any remaining illusion of safety. They survived the societal rejection, but you cannot out-stubborn a medical absolute. They are entirely unmoored.
I really want you, listening to this, to put yourself in that headspace. Consider the sheer compounding emotional weight pressing down on these two individuals.
He's rushing.
You've been exiled by your parents because you're too young. You've been mocked and invalidated by your peer, forcing you into aggressive, profanity-laced defense. And now, the ultimate authority figure, a doctor, looks you in the eye and tells you that all of this suffering, all of this fighting will end in tragedy anyway. Your child won't survive. How do you even wake up the next day? How do you keep functioning?
You keep functioning because the alternative is abandoning the person you love to face the abyss alone.
Wow.
This is where the core mechanism of their dynamic is truly tested and proven. Shared trauma of this magnitude often acts as a massive accelerant in a relationship.
It speeds everything up.
It is a crucible. It either burns the connection to the ground because the pressure is too immense, or it forges it into something unbreakable.
And Franklin chooses the latter. He doesn't panic. He doesn't say, well, the doctor said it's over, let's give up and go back to our parents.
He doubles down.
Exactly. The sources provide a visual of Franklin embracing Bear. And interestingly, it's in a lush, green setting, perhaps a visual representation of a memory of warmer, safer times, or, a psychological promise to Bear of the spring to come.
That's a beautiful read on the visual.
He has his arms wrapped as far around Bear's massive frame as he can reach. And the text says he is reminding Bear that, quote, no matter what happens, he'll always be there for him during the pregnancy.
That phrase, no matter what happens, is an explicit rejection of conditional love.
He's all in.
He is committing to the grief just as much as he committed to the joy. It proves that their bond is profoundly deeper than youthful infatuation. He is choosing to stand in the abyss with Bear.
It is incredibly profound. It's the ultimate act of partnership. And miraculously, despite the absolute medical doom projected by Dr. Bear, time marches forward.
Against all odds.
The baby doesn't perish in the winter. They survive the cold. They make it all the way to the 9th month, which sets the stage for the climax of the narrative.
Here we go.
And if you thought the ideological and biological clashes were intense before, we are about to enter a masterclass in cognitive dissonance.
The climax of this narrative is an extraordinary study in logistical absurdity and compartmentalized societal behavior.
It truly is. We hit month 9, Bear is in the final stages, and then the moment arrives, Bear's water breaks.
Panic mode.
They need to get to the hospital immediately. The text specifically names it as Tree Gap General Hospital. Now, getting to the hospital when someone is in labor is always a tense narrative beat. The stakes are automatically high.
Always.
But the logistical scenario outlined here is utterly bizarre.
They are not in an ambulance. They are not in a car speeding down a highway.
No. They are in a small wooden rowboat powered by a tiny outboard motor navigating a waterway.
It's so specific.
We have the visual evidence of this. Bear is sitting in the back, clutching his belly, looking severely distressed. Franklin is standing behind him, anxiously holding a stack of folded towels, playing the role of the panicked partner perfectly.
Classic trope.
And who is driving this boat?
Beaver.
Beaver, the very same peer who previously mocked them.
Yep.
Who completely invalidated the biological possibility of their pregnancy and who prompted Franklin's explosive profanity. She is now their emergency transport. Exactly. The sheer awkwardness of that alone is palpable. But it gets so much more complicated, and we need to carefully and impartially detail exactly what Beaver is doing and saying during this frantic boat ride to the hospital.
This is very important.
The source text is very clear on this point. It states that while she is driving the boat, actively transporting them to receive medical care, she, quote, talks shit about the pregnancy, saying gay parents' gay marriage isn't right for the baby in them.
This is a critical moment of socio-political conflict embedded right at the absolute climax of the story.
And unavoidable.
And it is essential that we observe this impartially without taking a side on the ideological spectrum presented, because the narrative is forcing opposing worldviews into an incredibly confined, inescapable physical space.
A small boat on an open body of water.
Right.
There's nowhere to run.
Exactly. You have Beaver, who is actively articulating a specific socio-political objection to same-sex parenting and same-sex marriage.
She's making her stance very known.
She is arguing that this family structure is fundamentally detrimental to the child and to the parents themselves. She is verbalizing a well-documented, real-world ideological stance against their union. And she's doing it while they are in active labor.
She isn't just saying, I don't get the biology anymore. She is explicitly stating that their identities and their family unit are morally wrong.
It's an ideological assault.
It's an incredibly intense ideological clash happening at the most vulnerable possible moment for Bear and Franklin. But here is the ultimate contradiction. Here is the thing that makes this entire sequence so mesmerizing and complex.
The arrival.
They get to the hospital,
Yep.
and who delivers the baby?
The text and the visual sources confirm it is Beaver.
Beaver. The visual shows Beaver standing on a wooden platform inside what looks like a beaver lodge structure that serves as the hospital, gently handing a swaddled newborn bear cub into the massive, joyful hands of Bear.
It's quite an image.
Beaver safely and successfully delivers Bear's baby boy. Think about the mechanics of this. I need an analogy here because it is blowing my mind.
Go for it.
It's like a battlefield medic. Imagine a soldier who deeply, fundamentally disagrees with the political cause of an enemy combatant. They might even shout their ideology across the trenches.
Right.
But when that enemy combatant is bleeding out in front of them, the medic's training takes over and they perform life-saving surgery.
That is exactly the psychological mechanism at play. It is the ultimate manifestation of cognitive dissonance.
It's jarring.
I encourage you to critically think about Beaver's role and mental state here. How does a person compartmentalize so severely?
How does she do it?
Well, on one hand, she holds and vocalizes strong, immovable ideological objections to their gay marriage and their fitness as parents. She believes their union is wrong.
She just said so on the boat.
On the other hand, she is simultaneously performing the ultimate act of intimate physical community care, midwifery.
She literally brings the child into the world. The child she just said shouldn't have gay parents.
Exactly. She navigates the boat, she stays with them, and she successfully delivers the child, directly defying Dr. Bear's grim prognosis from the winter. Wow.
It speaks to a fascinating compartmentalization of belief versus action within a community structure.
How do those two truths exist in the same person at the same time? How do you curse someone's family structure while literally delivering the child that creates that family?
Because in many fractured societies, communal instinct, the deep-seated evolutionary mandate to help a neighbor in a life-or-death medical emergency, can momentarily override ideological rigidity in a practical moment.
That makes a lot of sense.
She will tell them they are wrong, she will argue the politics until she is blue in the face, but she will not let them die. It is a profoundly complex, highly realistic depiction of coexistence in a fractured society.
It really is.
People are messy. Ideology is rigid, but humanity in a crisis is fluid.
It is community at its most contradictory. It's hostile reliance. And with that chaotic, beautiful, contradictory birth successfully completed, the immense tension of the narrative finally breaks.
The storm passes.
The medical peril is conquered, the immediate social clash pauses, and the story moves toward its final idyllic resolution. The denouement, the stabilization of the new paradigm.
We see the culmination of this insane journey. The final visual provided in our sources shows Franklin sitting in a rocking chair, looking absolutely overjoyed, holding his newborn son for the first time.
It's a very peaceful scene.
Bear is standing next to them, crying tears of joy, gently touching the baby's little blue hat. The room is decorated with bunting. There's a sign that says Cubby's First Day. It is a picture of absolute, unadulterated domestic bliss.
And the naming convention is finalized, cementing the validation they received earlier.
Yes. The text confirms the baby is officially named Bear Clinton, following through on Bear's earlier suggestion that was validated by Goose.
It's official.
A highly specific, oddly political-sounding name for a woodland creature, but it is their choice. It is their stamp on the future. They have named their reality.
If we look at the overarching journey they have just completed, it is staggering. Let's synthesize the sheer volume of obstacles they overcame.
It's a long list.
They survived familial exile from Mr. and Mrs. Turtle, who cast them out over chronological ageism disguised as moral objection. They survived fierce biological skepticism from their peer group.
Don't forget the medical side.
Right. They endured a dire, seemingly hopeless medical diagnosis from Dr. Bear that tested the absolute limits of their commitment. And finally, they navigated the treacherous waters of a politically hostile yet practically supportive midwife in Beaver to finally establish their own family unit.
They didn't just survive the gauntlet, they conquered it. The text concludes with that classic fairy tale ending stating that they, quote, live happily ever after and they raise their baby together in woodland.
That's a powerful statement.
Think about the power of that statement. They didn't flee the woodland. They didn't run away to a new society that already accepted male bear pregnancies. They stayed.
They claimed their space.
They have entirely reshaped the reality of their existing world. Remind yourself of how far we've come. We started this deep dive talking about a teenager dealing with chocolate ice cream cravings. And we've ended with a couple who literally rewrote the biological and societal laws of their universe, holding little Bear Clinton in a decorated nursery.
They forced their community to expand its definition of what is possible, both medically and socially. They didn't ask for permission to exist. They simply existed so loudly and undeniably that the world had to stretch to accommodate them.
It is an incredible, multi-layered journey. We've gone from the initial shock of a male bear's pregnancy, unpacked the psychology of cravings and acceptance, navigated deep generational divides, and the trauma of losing childhood safety nets.
Weathered absolute medical terrors.
Yes, and the psychology of unconditional love, and explored deep cognitive dissonance and ideological clashes about gay marriage and parenting, all culminating in this triumphant birth.
It forces us to examine the immense resilience of the chosen family against the rigid structures of the inherited community. It proves that kinship can be built in the spaces where traditional structures fail.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering thought, a question that builds on everything we've uncovered today regarding community and coexistence.
What's the question?
Well, we saw Mr. and Mrs. Turtle completely reject Franklin over his youth. We saw Beaver explicitly, aggressively reject the couple over their gay marriage, while simultaneously actively helping them give birth. Yet, in the end, the text tells us they're raising their baby in Woodland, seemingly living happily ever after.
Right alongside them.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, what does it take for a community to finally absorb and accept a family structure that breaks literally every single one of its established rules?
It's a tough question.
Can true philosophical acceptance ever exist alongside that kind of deep-rooted ideological skepticism? Or do they just learn to live in the same woods, navigating the muddy waters of biological and societal anomalies together through hostile reliance?
Can you hate the concept but love the neighbor?
Exactly. Can you? Think about that next time you encounter a story or a reality that challenges your own worldview.